chat with your fearless leaders on a regular basis, and please consider me a resource. I'm actually just stopping in for a couple of minutes because I have 3 other things to go to, but I don't want to miss this. So thank you guys so much for doing this. It's a real service to our school system.
And we have one online participant tonight. Sam Sonata Adu, one of our board members, is participating virtually.
What was your name again? I'm sorry.
Karen Keys Gamara. As in, don't leave your keys at home.
And I think stepped out Felicia Usher's principal at Wayanoke. I think I saw one of her sons pop in.
Yeah.
So my kids used to go there.
She's having a little powwow out there.
Please introduce yourself. We're doing introductions.
Hi, I'm Heather Hale. I teach third grade at Williams School, and I'm part of the executive board. I apologize for being here.
And I'm Mike Woltz. I'm the chair of the executive board. And we are doing very well time-wise. I'm going to bear with me throughout the year. These times are really to guide us because we have great content and a lot of engaging discussions. But if we don't time it, we will run out of time. So I will keep pushing this as we need to. I want to make sure if you haven't had a chance to, please sign in. I'm going to get out of the way and let Dr. Huffman Jackson talk about engagements. What happened? Oh, family engagement survey. I kind of introduced you already. I saw your son pop. So we're going to discuss the survey, about the purpose of the TPAC. Just like that. Review the recommendations and charge from the past year. Oh, it's this year, I'm sorry. Highlight and discuss welcoming outreach practices. Elect new members to the executive board. Approve the proposed meeting schedule for 2020-2021. With that forward thinking. And review topics for the upcoming year.
So I am going to discuss with you tonight the family engagement survey results. And we're actually going to take a look at the family engagement survey results from our Title I schools only. Okay, so we were able to work with K-12 Insights to look at this, to create and administer this survey, and the data was crunched around Title I schools. So for our grounding, if you could just turn to a shoulder buddy or someone sitting close to you and answer this question. How do you feel when you think about reviewing data? How do you feel?
Overwhelming. I love data. I'm a data junkie. You like data too. Yeah, Jen.
Apparently, 29,000. Yeah.
So if you could finish your sentence. Like you were at. Where you at?
Yeah.
So what were some of the things that you and your partner may have shared? How do you feel when you think about reviewing data? How do you feel?
So my partner said overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed?
And my other virtual partner says they feel excited to learn more about the data.
Okay, excited to learn more. Anyone else? How do you feel when you review data?
Invigorated, and my partner was questioning the data. Had lots of questions about, well, who responded, and did we get a good sample set? Did we actually get who we really need to hear from?
5. So these are all questions, invigorating, and then you start questioning the data, and other questions arise when you begin to look at data. So what I'm going to do is take you through the Family Engagement Survey results for Title I schools. And the purpose of the survey was for us to get feedback from families throughout FCPS around 6 areas. And these 6 areas that we looked at are from the national standards for family school partnerships from the National PTA. So we looked at welcoming environment, we looked at communication, student success, advocacy, family and school partnerships, and collaborating with the community. Those were the 6 focus areas of the survey. This is the participation information around the survey. We're just looking at Title I schools, but just to let you know that this survey was sent to every person in FCPS that had some type of connection with a child. So we sent out 100,064 email surveys that went out. This is what we call a census survey, so everyone had the opportunity to respond to our survey. We had 29,259 responses to the survey, so almost 30,000 respondents to this family engagement survey. The survey was sent out in our 8 prominent languages, so families had the opportunity to take the survey in whatever language they selected to take the survey. So you'll see the responses around the language that the survey was taken in. That doesn't, there may be some English respondents that may speak another language, but they chose to take the survey in English, okay? We did not gather demographic information, so we didn't ask anyone their race, because we know through national sampling that once you begin to ask families their demographic information, they will be less apt to take the survey. So as a division, we decided that we were not going to do that. We would just send the survey to everyone and try to get any and everyone to respond to the survey. So looking at the very first part around parents feeling respected, this was the response for families feeling respected. And you'll see that I also gave you a breakdown of a comparison of FCPS responses and our Title I school responses. And then you have the opportunity to, once you have your school's results, you can add your school results to the sheet. But as you can see that FCPS as a whole, 83% of our families felt respected, where at our Title I schools, 89% of our families felt respected that responded to the survey. The reason this one is highlighted because this is one of our strategic plan goal metrics, and we wanted to be able to measure how respected our families felt. This is the next question around children, how respected did the child feel, and you'll see results there, and you have the results in front of you in that handout. These were the highest ranking indicators. So these were the indicators that we scored the highest on at our Title I schools. So 96% of our families feel that the school welcomes different backgrounds and cultures. 94% feel that their child feels welcome at school. 94% believe that information provided to me is easy to understand. 93% feel that their child is safe at school or feels safe at school. And 92%, my child connects to and trusts at least one caring adult at my school. These are very high indicators, and the only one that is similar to FCPS results in terms of an indicator of one of our highest indicators was the one around my child feeling welcome at school and my child feels safe at school. So there were some other indicators that rose to the top in our Title I schools that did not rise to the top for our schools as a whole in FCPS.
My apologies. I just wanted to see how, so did children take a survey as well where it says child feels respected?
No,
at
that
school?
was the parent responding to the
on their
question.
behalf.
Yes. Our lowest indicators for the survey, you'll see the 5 lowest indicators, and 20% of the families felt from our Title I schools that they receive enough information, that they do not receive enough information to their school, from their schools, about what they can do at home to help their child improve learning. The overall in FCPS, this is one of our lowest indicators as well. Our families feel like they are not receiving enough information around how to help their child at home. Look at the next one. The school provides me with opportunities to connect with other families. The school provides me with information to me about how my child can access or take advantage of educational, developmental, social opportunities. And we've kind of talked around this around TPAC for the last 2 years, around these opportunities for students. The staff helps me to identify social and emotional skills that my child can develop to be successful. And then finally, our school encourages parents and educators to share information such as student strength and learning preferences. So these were the percentage of families that disagreed or strongly disagreed. This is overall the dimensions of each area. You'll see our welcoming environment was our highest percentage in terms of the survey, with 91%. Communication was at 87%. Student success, 77, advocacy, 76, family school partners, 83, and collaborating with the community. So these were like dimension scores for those 6 areas that the survey was broken down in. So what I want you to do now, I'm gonna stop talking, and I'm gonna give you like maybe 15 minutes to look at the rest of the results at your table. Or you could turn around and work in a larger group. I want you to review the rest of the responses, and I want you to compare the FCPS data to the Title I data. And while you're reviewing the data, highlight any ahas or things that really stick out to you, and we're gonna bring those out as a group as we finish this time together. Okay? Any questions? So I want you to kind of review the data at your tables or within a table group, and highlight any ahas that you may see in the Title I results in comparison to FCPS results.
Do we know the response rate for Title I?
Yes, I do. I can get it for you. It was on average 3,470, and on each question you'll see the N. The N is the response for each question.
And that's overall or at the Title I school?
This is only, remember, these are only Title I. These are families that responded out of the 29,000. This is the response rate for our Title I schools only.
Where can we find results from our?
So we're working on, you can contact your school principal around those results. Oh, sure. Yeah, so we're working on with principals to get information out to them.
Yes, I'm just right here.
I agree, it's not bad, but the question, especially Title I is like, what portion of a Title I school did you get? Did you get the,
Yeah, and I noticed that.
the folks that are really, in need of those Title I services, or did you get a portion of school that is, now, some of that, I see, I think the survey is actually somewhat decent, because I noticed that in the communication preferences, text message and phone call, like, are higher than email. And I thought that was really interesting for Title I schools. There's text message, like, essentially the Title I schools are unions. For reason they're smart. Communication. Right. But everything else, like, this is where I started seeing some specific. Specifically different by 10% difference but I thought I mean, I was just educational density. I know a lot of, labor jobs, and so that, to me, explains that versus sitting at his desk job.
That's why you gotta look at the individual. Brainstorming, figure out and trying to come up with a plan to lower those numbers.
Sorry I bugged at you earlier. I didn't mean to. I was being bossy and I had.
By yourself, and I apologize for not getting home quick enough. I've stayed at work late, I was reading something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not.
I know, I wasn't able to get that. I apologize. You must have been speaking to Richard. Very well
The meeting.
Okay. I didn't make connections with him.
I didn't know who it was. Yeah, that's great.
In my opinion, it's just, you don't get.
And actually to that, like it's like, I feel like we have to do a better job with this events at my school. Or another time that I'm available. I actually, even though there's no difference, I really mark that as something that should be something because I know our PTA has gone really, like so our PTA president this year is a natively bilingual. We're around 7 quarters. There's a cultural center, and we've had meetings. Which is like right where other language speakers. Our PTA president this year, I told her she's doing amazing, but that's the first year that she's so. I might, I don't know, maybe I'll bring her somewhere, and say like, hey, this is what you've done to increase our. I think part of that is having just having people available. So really,
It's about 5 more minutes.
What school you represent? Every single day you after. Oh, like and I'm gonna call you guys out later. You gonna say how fun it is. You didn't have to be here on time. Like almost came in. Who's here?
And
Samson's
Samson's on
love.
board. Yeah. Yeah, so full board.
Mm-hmm.
That's
For a
awesome.
second, I was like, gee, I knew Billy would be there, but then everybody's filled in.
Mm-hmm.
Like I took the same car or something. You can be done by 7:50. Okay.
Actually, and as a father, I have a hard time hearing. It was contact from mom, honestly, it's super frustrating. And I've actually talked to other people and like my information entered in this SIS and they entered in mom, even though we wrote it on it's my account.
Renee, you're jumping to preferred communication.
Yeah,
You're gonna share out some of their highlights.
she puts down my information every year, and I asked other people.
Just wanna
And they're like,
highlight for them.
and they're like, yeah, we put down both.
And I'm gonna ask you their key
Check,
takeaways.
their portal and like.
Right. I didn't want to like talk through all of our.
Right. Well, we're going to send, and they're on the website, right?
Not the Title I results, but the FCPS results.
Oh, that's right.
Really want the dads to be involved. I'm like,
1 minute.
I do mind. I just, this teacher.
But not everybody is their, newsletter. If you could finish your statement, and if I can have you back up front. Before you share some of your takeaways, I wanted to highlight this preferred method of communication that came out from the Title I schools. And it's something that I failed to mention. Because this was a census survey, meaning everyone had the opportunity to respond, and we got almost 30,000 responses. If we had done a random sampling survey to families throughout FCPS, we only would have needed 2,500 responses to make the survey valid. So oftentimes people see that 30,000 and they're kind of like, well, that's still not a lot of respondents. If we had done a random sampling to families throughout FCPS, the response rate to be valid would be only 2,500 families, and we wanted to hear the voices of more than 2,500 families in FCPS. Take a look at this response around the preferred method of communication. In our Title I schools, our families are saying that they want to be communicated through via email. And this could kind of be tricky because we know that our newsletters come electronically through the email, where our family said only 21% said newsletter. So when we went over results for the FCPS results, we talked to principals about that because someone said, why are we sending newsletters if no one really wants a newsletter? But remember, our newsletters are digital, so they're coming through email. So that kind of might have thrown that off a little bit. The second one was text messaging. Our families are saying they want to be communicated through via text messages and phone calls. The FCPS data, the number 3 was in person, and it wasn't phone calls, but our Title I families are saying phone calls. So I just want to highlight that for you. So what were some key takeaways from the discussion that you and your partner or your table group had around the survey. Yes, sir.
The one thing she noticed, interesting, if you look at that page with the highest ranking and lowest ranking, almost all the highest rankings are about the welcoming environment. You know, how nice it is for the kids to see school, how welcome they feel, which is great. But then almost all of the lowest rankings are about the success of the student. About them getting information about learning out of school, about encouraging their children, about helping their children, and it kind of throws the balance off. It's great to be welcoming, but we need to focus on the success too.
And you are exactly right. We saw that well on the FCPS side, and that's that shift from involvement to engagement. We're shifting from, involving the parents, telling them, instead of working and partnering with them. And because family engagement is about student success. So yes, that was something that came out division-wide. How can we better help families support student success? Thank you. Any other ahas?
So we noticed that when you compare FCPS with Title I schools, that the percentage that strongly agree was always higher for Title I schools, which it gives an indication that these programs are valuable.
And it's interesting that you said that, because when the survey results first came out, Dr. Braybrand specifically asked us to look at what was the response for Title I schools, because oftentimes Title I is seen around compliance. So you have to do these things because you're a Title I school. Well, we can see whatever we're doing in our Title I schools are more effective, perhaps, than division whole, because we are really putting a focus and trying to better engage our families.
I have a question. I'm curious to know what the percentages for FCPS would be if you remove the Title I schools from that average. In other words, if you remove the Title I schools from that survey and only included the FCPS schools that are non-Title I, what would those percentages be in comparison to Title I?
Yeah, we didn't disaggregate it that way, and we would have to go back to the company to disaggregate it that way, pulling out those 3,500 responses. But I still think it would be higher or greater than the responses that we got as an overall.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yes. Thank you.
We were also curious about the response rate for Title I schools versus the response rate for FCPS. That if, I think she did the math, it was like 16% response rate or something for Title I schools. So I just want to know if there's a correlation, if it's similarly disproportionate.
Meaning there's 16% of Title I schools are in our total population of Title I schools, 16% of schools. Is that sort of the correlation you're trying to
So no, I'm wondering if if also that 26,000, the total SPS, is that also just 60% of total possible respondents, or did we just have really low response rates for Title I schools, and then it was a much higher response rate for all the others?
So if you take the 29,000 response and you subtract it, the 3,500 or the 3,470, so overall there was about 26,000 respondents. Because remember, you had to self-select your school, so that's how we were able to get that denominator for Title I schools. So if someone took the survey for a Title I school, is how we got the 3,500 respondents. So yes, you'll see that 26,000 in comparison to 3,500.
We could figure that out though, right?
Yes.
Isn't there are 50 Title I schools in Fairfax out of 200?
47.
Yes.
So you kind of play with those numbers.
So I think the question is, what's the response rate among the Title I schools?
Yeah, I don't have that. I could get it for you and give it to Yvonne for her to send out through an email to everyone. I didn't have them crunch or pull that information out for us. I'm sure that they had it because they were able to create to single out and for just these results, but I don't have that.
So, and something you said earlier, Renee, is also that if we were to do a sample size for division our size for people that use data analysis nationally, that all you need is 2,500 responses of a sample size. they would indicate that's a true sampling, that's a valid data. We had more than that even in the Title I responses.
So I don't think that the point is that, we didn't have enough. It's that it just looks so paltry compared to the total responses for all FCPS. Like the difference between those two ends is very big.
And then the sample like by is still, I don't know that, yes, having big numbers, but maybe it's the big numbers for people who actually open their emails.
But we
which is a
also-
certain kind of, and not everything.
We had other opportunities too for you to respond other than email. You could have done a paper survey. We had sites open where people could literally come in and take the survey on a computer. It wasn't only through email. We did a lot of outreach because we know that everyone does not have access. So we tried to do as much outreach as we can. This is the first time that we've ever done a survey like this in FCPS. And we won't do it again until 2021. So hopefully at that point, we'll have many more respondents. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just have a question because I'm looking here and I see like the various language. Was there any language barrier or was this survey given in the various different languages?
Yeah, you could
So
say.
there wasn't like a language barrier for.
Okay.
That was in the beginning,
but
the languages that it was given. Oh, I see it, I see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other,
Yeah, another
key
point that,
takeaways?
yeah, another takeaway that our group had, was that this percentage of don't knows, where parents just did not know, let me go to the particular page. Right here where it kind of shows, it's page 12, 16%, 17%, my child's school encourages my child to take challenging classes. I can tell you for a fact, I answered don't know on that. And I remember that. And I can tell you why I answered don't know. We don't have to get into that. But some of these don't knows, I'm curious to know why others answered don't know, why it's not strongly agree, and why it became don't know.
Right, because people don't know what they don't know, and this provided an opportunity for us as a school division. We've got to do better. So like parents may not know that, in terms of selecting courses for your child, how are you being engaged in that process? It's bringing out other opportunities as a division to support our schools, to support families. Because people just don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, even me being an involved parent and asking questions from all the different avenues, I still resulted to the don't know. So I'm curious to know how many people had that common question, and is that an area of an improvement that we can make for the Title I to get that percentage less and this percentage of strongly agree higher?
Yeah. You're going to the next part of our presentation. Any other key takeaways?
This might have already been said, but I wasn't in. But I noticed that I went to the front office to ask where the paper was, just because I wanted to see what it was like to ask for the paper, and like you had to ask one of the staff, so it didn't really feel necessarily like welcoming. Like if maybe they had it like on a table outside of the office or something where you didn't have to like go get it. I don't know. It might not feel as confidential when you have to like go get the paper and then turn it in to them too. So maybe there had been a table and then a box so that.
Thank you for that feedback, and those were one of the things that we suggested, but it didn't happen in every school. Like even setting out a computer in your front office so that families could just come in. But thank you for that feedback, and we will make sure that that feedback goes forward when we administer it in 2021. Because you're right, some families might not have felt comfortable filling it out or asking someone for the survey. And we even gave envelopes so that they could just be put into envelopes and sent back to our office to be put in the system. Schools didn't input the data that the paper surveys came back in K-12 and put that data for us.
Now, I know you said that you didn't look at demographics because that would get you answer these questions. It'd be interesting to know, I mean, if some of the responses are skewed because of the demographics, that if it's an overwhelming majority in this one area, answering these questions, then it might be skewed a certain way. And so,
a lot of schools look at their own personal individualized school demographics when they looked at this data, and they could kind of based on they know their school demographic. Yeah, I can't disagree with anything that you're saying. We just wanted to make families more apt to complete the survey, and we did not ask them that demographic information. Moving forward, maybe we will. I don't know.
What was the cutoff date of the survey?
It was that Friday before spring break. Yeah, it was open 2 weeks. I have that information somewhere. Yeah, it was a window from and we even did something unique. We sent it on a Sunday because we felt like parents would be opening emails and responding, getting ready for the work week. And that was the day we had the most responses because we tracked the responses by day.
Okay.
But that first
So it was a 2-week
Sunday,
window, right?
there was a 2-week window.
Okay.
And it was the 2 weeks before spring break. I can't tell you
Okay.
that. And I don't remember.
2019.
I don't remember the dates in March. Susan, do you remember the dates in March? I don't.
March 23rd, 12th through 23rd.
12th to the 23rd.
Okay.
So to end this time together, I wanted you to think about the Title I survey results and then process some growth opportunities. And you already provided an opportunity for growth. And develop a goal for growth or a focus to take back to your school principal to build on together. What is something that you can take back to your school principal around these results and for opportunity for growth for you to work on collaboratively or together? So think through that, write it down and process it, and we'll do a little share out
One more question.
if needed.
Will we have access to our particular school survey, like this chart
Yes.
for our school?
So we're working with school principals around that information. We had to get the reports accessible so that they could be posted on the website because of accessibility laws.
Okay.
So we've just finished those reports to being accessible, and we're going to get information out to school principals around the posting of this information. But if
Okay.
you go to your
So
school
maybe at some
principal,
point.
they will share this information with you.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
We'll just call it a Title I homework assignment. That way they'll-
A Title I homework assignment?
That way they'll give it to us. Sometimes they can, because that's the one
How are you?
Do you want us to share that with the rest of the group here, or what we can take back, or?
Yeah, I was going to do a little quick share.
Okay.
If there's, did you have enough time to process? Let's share out. So what are some growth opportunities? She talked about increasing that don't know area. What can we do to help our families move higher in the know or agree or strongly disagree when in the areas that we might have been too many don't knows. And when you look at your school data, it may shift some of your thoughts around the type of data as a whole. Yes, ma'am.
So I'll say, looking at our data next to the Title I school data and next to the FCPS data, I feel like, so I had the same question about the IDLP portions of what we were asking for our families. I think some of it has to do with communication, and not just am I getting enough communication, but how are we messaging all the things that we're doing? Are the parents aware of the things that we're doing to support emotional growth, or what we're doing to push children towards more challenging, rigorous work? Have we done a great job of communicating what we're doing, or are we just trucking along and doing the work, but not actually telling anyone what we've done? So I think some of it is communication. There may be great things going on. You have no idea because no one has thought to tell you. It just hasn't. I don't think it's like
I don't know what avenue that great thing is.
Right.
I mean, I know there's many great things
Right.
happening, but in particular subjects.
Yeah, you don't
which
know
way are
when
we seeing
you
that
wouldn't know
great
until someone
Right.
tells you because you're not there all day. So I
Exactly.
think some of it is how do we communicate what we are doing already, and how do we gain that input from our school communities to get even more input about how we can make it even better.
Regarding like school staff keeps me informed on my school's progress. As a father, I know it has been a struggle to be included on those conversations because all of the conversation always goes to the mom. And I know my information has gone to FCPS, and it's not just me. I've done some polling of other families, and they're like, "Oh, wow, we put both of our information, but in the cis parent, only if I'm talking to a mom, it's like, only my information's there." And I know FCPS wants to get dads more involved, but it's kind of hard when that kind of thing is a repeating thing. So making sure that we're being inclusive of both genders.
So my name is Josie Rivera, and this is my son's first year here because we moved over the summer from Texas to Virginia. So we're new to this school system, totally different than Texas. But what I'm going to do, and I'm going to share my plan of action with you all, and maybe it could provide recommendation or maybe a suggestion for you guys to go back to your home school and maybe you can utilize this, but this is the way I plan to bring this up with my principal. So one of the things that I'd like to do is sit down with her and discuss these results, because I brought up the fact that these, I don't know, to me it was a concern. It was a very big concern. Why? What is it? Is it a lack of communication on the school part? Is it a lack of communication on the parent part? Is it both? Is it because new programs are being stood up, or they're there but it's just not articulated on paper and then sent out to the parents? Whatever the case may be. But I think it's important to list facts and assumptions, because you're going to be able to ask these questions as a parent. Like, for example, the gentleman here that said that, they communicate more with the mom. From a parent perspective, you can jot down facts and assumptions from your end, but then the principal can give you their facts and assumptions from their end, okay? Try to bridge that gap right there, okay? Once you get those facts and assumptions and together, you can, based on the outcome or the results of those facts and assumptions, together you can come up with courses of actions, okay? Courses of action. And then if it's communication, then, together you can work together on how are we going to better communicate this information from school to parent and parent to school, and how are we going to get the parents more involved? Because there are times where parents are not involved. And it could be for any reason. It could be because they work. It could be because they're busy taking care of home when they come home from work, and they don't have the time to go to PTA meetings or meetings that are important, where they put important information out. So we got to kind of come up with different courses of actions on how to communicate that information. So that's my plan of action. It's one of those things that's a work in progress, but that's how I plan to attack this information, because that was a big concern when I started seeing double digits on don't know. So, I mean,
And
for whatever that's worth.
And remember last year when we talked about effective family engagement, we talked about two-way communications at schools. Oftentimes we push in information, but how are we doing the two-way communication and allowing the information to come back to the schools? Does anyone else want to share out, because my time is up?
Was there any opportunity to say not applicable? Because I'm looking at the one question where it says workshops for families offered through my child's school are informative. I don't really know how you can say don't know. The only way you can say don't know is if you just weren't there.
Right. And
if you were there, you either agree it was informative or you don't agree that.
And I think it was don't know, because
but if you never went to one,
right,
you should
that's why
say not applicable. I don't, for that particular question, it really be don't know.
So we did have some logic models for some of our questions. So, for example, if you have asked for an interpreter, if you responded no, you didn't get the next question. So next go around, using some more logic models around some of those questions, because that's a perfect example. Because if they never attended a workshop, of course they're going to say don't know, because they don't know if it was informative because they didn't attend.
Because they didn't know there was a workshop. True, that too.
Yeah, right, yeah.
My online participant indicated collaboration with the community is his goal. He wants to know what are other ways that we can deepen engagement with our school community. He said, I think this is where the community outreach ambassador strategy is very important. We're currently using this approach in Riverside Elementary School, and these community outreach ambassadors bridge the communication gap between the school and the community parent.
So that's a high impact strategy that they're using at Sampson School at Riverside, and that's a high impact strategy on how they're engaging their families. So you have my contact information. If you have any questions.
Renee, I think it would be helpful if you pick some of the things on here and they were opportunities for folks to learn the good things that are happening at their schools. So I think each time you came together, for example, one of the challenges on here is, my school provides with opportunities to connect with other families. Although it was a great room for improvement of, being at 71%, 29%, ability to increase on that, there are some things happening, and I do imagine there's probably great things that folks here in this room have done or led at their schools, and they can share those things. And there are also things that folks in this room can take back to a school and say, hey, this is a strategy I learned on how to bring families together. And I would think that most principals would be like, great, and are you willing to help take that on with me? Because, you want to know why people cringe when they see the data. It's because people are working hard. They want to give to schools. They want to do the best they can. And the hard part is, right to, like, here's the low number. And the reality is we want to find ways to do better. We're not there wasting our time. We don't want to waste anybody else's time either.
Yeah. So celebrate the successes and look for the opportunities.
And there's probably great ideas in this room of things that folks have done. I had a movie night the other night, and I thought, like, oh my God, if these parents came here thinking they were actually going to get to watch the movie, I'm sorely disappointed that the kids were up the entire time throwing things away, using the restroom, and I kept on went. Apologize to everybody, and I'm like, next time I'm just doing a parent pop-up on this side. Don't worry, we can talk about learning. I know they're going to say, can you connect to learning? But no, put the kids over here, the parent pop-up on that side. It'll be night out to have fun. But maybe we'll see. I don't know. But I don't know. Just little strategies that you can think about to bring people together, or any one of these things up here. I think there's great ideas in this room where people can leverage their strengths and you give one and get one.
Yeah.
What's more?
Hutchison.
Which movie did you show?
Toy Story. I'm looking for anything an hour or less, by the way. We bought the license, we promised, we didn't break any copyright laws.
Thank you so much for your time, and we will build upon this as the year progresses. So thank you.
So I think I'm up just a few minutes, right? So good evening again. I'm Yvonne Denome, the Title I manager. I see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of faces, but so thrilled you're here this evening. I'm going to talk briefly about Title I expectations. So we know that Title I is a federal program. It's an entitlement program, and with that, it's compliance heavy, and there are some requirements. These are the key requirements for Title I, that we need to conduct outreach to families. We need to implement programs and activities and procedures to engage our families. For those of you that were here last year, you heard that Fairfax is really undergoing a paradigm shift. Dr. Jackson has been doing a lot of professional development for schools and families, transitioning from parent involvement to family engagement. It looks, it feels, it is a little differently, or it's a little different. Federal law also requires us to implement programs and strategies with meaningful consultation in families. There's decision-making. Some examples of decision-making in your schools, there is every spring, there is a family engagement policy that you'll be working with your school. There's also a school compact. Schools also develop during the summer a school improvement and innovation plan. Parents should and can be part of that process. Your input, that's a perceptual data point. You have the family engagement survey results. This is all input that you can help to assist in deciding next steps for your schools. You're gonna have to excuse me, I have a sore throat and I don't normally chew gum when I speak, but with my scratchy throat, it's bugging me. And then maintain a district parent involvement policy and compact. So the division, not only does each school have a family engagement policy, but the division also has one, and that will be presented to you to review and approve in the spring as well. What questions do you have about any of these items?
When is the compact?
So the
school compact.
The school compact is revised in the spring. It is due, it's revised, we normally tell the schools, revised in the spring, ready to go. The Virginia Department of Ed and the United States Department of Education wants to know that that policy and compact was made available at the start of school or upon enrollment to the school. And it can be put in a welcome back packet, it can be posted to the website, it can be linked to in a newsletter, multiple means of dissemination, but it should be made available during the first week of school. Great question.
Did you want to share that's a newer
Yes.
timeline? It wasn't like that before, because I would hate for you to think, oh my gosh, I didn't get this until the second week of school, or the past years I didn't get it until November. The deadline changed this year.
That is correct.
I
So
mainly asked because it was sent to me for feedback, the number 21. And so I was wondering if there was like a deadline or something that just came up from Title I office.
No, we knew about it last spring.
Oh,
But this was the first calendar year that the deadlines shifted earlier in the year.
Oh, I
yes,
got you.
yes. Thank you, Felicia.
So some schools may just be realigning, they're used to doing it a different timeline, and slip the principal's mind, like, oh, I need to get this out. I think it's great they reached out to you for feedback too. So they're probably trying to get caught up on, it's almost, it feels like, but probably from a principal's perspective, almost half a year earlier. So just kind of shifted the timelines a little bit.
My parents are so excited to get it. I send it on Friday nights, you know? They're really just looking forward to reading that. I'm just kidding.
Thank you, Mr. Lynette.
I left this up here because the National Standards Family School Partnership, there's 6 of them. I want to hone in on number 5 and go back to meaningful consultation, because that's really what sharing power is in this capacity. Meaningful consultation. Doesn't have to be the same thing everywhere you're at, but you're going to know what it feels like when you have it. And this, we can help with the results of the survey. We can help improve or get results and outcomes, not only a higher response rate, but more positive feedback by a lot, I'm not gonna repeat a lot said, we're short on time, but the purpose of this committee is to increase the family engagement. You are a representative school board committee. Through that, you will work on your leadership and advocacy skills and strengthen school home partnerships because you're going to be sharing information. We have a lot of time during our meetings. We turn to each other and share information, collaborate, get new ideas. And as you heard, as Renee was talking about involvement versus engagement, I was engaged before I was involved. It sounds really funny when you say that, but I was working with my son his math before I went to a PTA meeting for the whole year. I became PTA president the year after, but engagement is really what you're doing to support their learning. It's not that involvement is bad, but we want a more successful strategy, a higher impact strategy for their learning. So that's, family engagement is what supports students' learning, whether it's in or out of the school, throughout the community. And something that we have to be really clear on is that no matter what somebody's income level or their background, everybody can have a hand in and have a role in it. And when they are engaged, really it's a relationship. When things go wrong in school, it's usually a relationship breakdown. It's not a discipline problem. It's a relationship is broken down. With that improved relationship, higher grades, test scores, pass classes, attending school more regularly, have greater social skills, and a more successful career when they get out of school. How the TPAC differs specifically from a PTA or PTO, in case you're not familiar, the school board appointed committee. It's Title I in the name, very specific. Representatives are nominated by the school principal, and we make policy recommendations to the school board. And, we actually have a requirement, we help ensure that schools are fulfilling those requirements. Whereas PTA, PTO, they have their own leadership structure, they have membership dues, they can be at any school level. Now in terms of Title I, all but one school is elementary right now, we have one middle school. And officers are nominated, elected by membership within the school community. They have provided financial support and coordinate activities and programs. We don't have any financial oversight, even though there may be a time where we have input about that, but we don't have any budgetary responsibilities. Recommendations are on the agenda that's passed out, and they're going to be on every agenda, so I'm not going to read it word for word, but I am going to flesh out the most important part of each one. This is Josie, I think is your name, as you're talking about. Josie?
Josie. Yeah.
Josie. Mm-hmm. I'm really glad you said what you were going to do, because a really important component, I think really the key, is connecting the school to you and the work that this committee does. And the dynamic is going to be different in every school. Hey, your principal may be new, you may be new. Maybe you're not comfortable sitting down. Maybe it's an email, maybe it's a phone call. But it's being able to relate to them what's coming from here and seeing how not only the information can help the school, but what the school's already doing beneficial that you can bring back to us. And that's really what's behind this, making principals, keeping them, and we have 2 or 3 principals here tonight.
Mr. Simi, one online.
So we have 4 principals, and we appreciate you being out here because we know your day starts very early.
And you had a fifth when she needed to leave early.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Recommendation 2, when you think about student success, this really ties really closely to it. It's having a culturally proficient, and that's really important when we look at our international makeup of our families in Title I schools, culturally proficient AART, who's going to be an advocate for them. Also, make more opportunities available and get parents the information earlier. Because it can feel like going through Star Wars, navigating all this information, figuring out what's most important. And I mean, but what we also said is that advanced academics, it's not just a program, it's a philosophy. So every school should be endeavoring to have advanced academics offered, whether it's AP or whatever else. This is kind of specific about and some of this we have to do more exploration, more collaboration with the Advisory Council for Students with Disabilities. But it is a mentoring program for parents who are navigating that process. The former chair of the executive board, she kind of shared some of her journey with navigating the special ed process. And she's someone who she described as somebody, native English speaker, has good resources, but it was still a struggle. So imagine somebody who doesn't have that navigating the process. So we want to, not just with this school board committee, but there's other committees that we're going to be communicating with and seeing how we can tackle some issues together. This is very specific. It's about Homework Helpers is a student-led tutoring program, middle school to elementary school. It's a lot closer than high school to elementary school. Something just went through what somebody experienced, and getting them more traction and more visibility. And Grant Involve is a retiree, a senior-led program to do that volunteers in schools. And recommendation 5, that's an ongoing for this year. It's increasing parent capacity and comprehension title.
What's an Ignite partner?
Ignite is this part of the strategic plan?
So if you're an Ignite partner, it means that you've gone the extra mile to create goals and things with our family, with FCPS in particular. It's not at one school. It has the impact to be a high leverage impact. So you go through sort of a vetting process and working with our community business partner liaison, Jay Durant's office. And so and usually there's some monitoring of it, so that means that this is a very impactful one. It usually also means that it has the support of school board or the support of board of supervisors in that kind of way as well.
So are you saying it's a business?
No, this Ignite is a term to this.
I mean, I think of lighting something up. When I think of
Yeah,
Ignite, so.
the term Ignite means they're going to ignite our work and get our work going. So these are two sort of nonprofit groups. They're available.
Okay, so Grant Involve is retirees, an Ignite partner is another nonprofit organization?
No, Grant Involve is an Ignite partner. So they're kind of like they're elevated. They're not your everyday partner at one school impacting one type of kid. They're impacting lots of schools, so we're going to give them a special title. They're not just a community partner, they're an Ignite community partner.
How many Ignite partners are there?
That I would have to look up for you.
Where do we find the Ignite partners?
Huh?
Where do we find the list of Ignite partners?
On our website. So if you go to main FCPS page.
And our
Under volunteering, if you click there, it's a whole section on how to volunteer, whether it's school specific, and then it takes you to something called the Foundation of Fairfax, which also talks about being a member of the Foundation of Fairfax. And a lot of this work comes through the Foundation of Fairfax, which is a board of trustees that's not just FCPS employees, it's also business, and they work together to say how to make a better community. So these Ignite, they're a high leverage partner that has been vetted by lots of people.
And so are those resources available to us for a Title I school?
Yes. Okay. So Grant Involve is an Ignite partner that is heavily involved right now. It's and do you have Grant Involve?
We do.
I want to say it's by not out the way we do regions. It's the way the Board of Supervisors does regions. So it's very involved in the Mount Vernon. Yes.
Like I'm in the Mason district.
It's coming to the Mason district right now. So they have an action plan to expand by district. So as a matter of fact, that's their next place they want to expand to is the Mason district. It's very much backed by the Board of Supervisors. So we can talk offline about Grant Involve, and in general, an Ignite partner means it's someone that's large scale partnership with FCPS. Right?
To distinguish, Homework Helpers is not large scale yet. We want to build up their capacity. Where are they?
Yeah.
They're in just a few schools right now. So a lot of them are there.
One is Rocky Run Middle School.
Yeah. Okay. So is that a district specific area?
No, it's really connecting middle schools to the elementary schools that feed into them. So we're helping them get themselves out there more.
So I was like, I wish I knew about this last year. They changed math, so understanding what kind of resources.
Well, it's exactly what we want to have happen, but it's important to have the and if we don't have the middle schools, those are the tutors. They mentor the elementary school kids, so we have to connect that. And the fifth one, and it ties to, I think, part of the survey, increased parent capacity and comprehension of Title I, include providing materials information in various language. And the one thing about the survey that jumped out to me is that 6,000 were in English, and I wonder if a lot of the positive response is just the fact they understood it. You know, I would like to see the numbers for non-English speaking languages jump triple in the next 2 years. And that's why even in this group, we want to make sure that, and please ask you whether it's you or someone else who represents this committee, what other languages, what were the main non-English speaking languages at your school? We want to be able to provide this information besides just English, because are we really reaching people if we're only saying it in one language? And the other part is exploring the impact trauma and discipline have on students' educational success. That's something that later on in the year we will encounter. Now we're going to have a welcoming and outreach success story shared by Heather Hale.
Hi, I'm Heather Hale. I'm a third grade teacher in the county. I've been in the county for 6 years, and I teach at Wayne Elementary School, which is in Alexandria, right by Thomas Jefferson. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about Wayne Oak's journey and how we've kind of come to a goal or come to kind of success with welcoming and outreach. We took the results of the family engagement survey. We took parent input. We asked our school community what they thought, their advice, suggestions, and what we did was, well, our principal, Felicia Esther, kind of hosted a coffee talk. So she invited parents in from the community. She had two, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, to reach as many parents as possible. And she put posters all around the room with various questions and just asked parents to answer the questions in the language that they were most comfortable in. She then had those posters translated and brought it to the leadership team. The leadership team then created an action plan for Wayne Oak to further build our welcoming and outreach. Now, when we looked at the survey results, our welcoming was very, very high. Our community outreach was very high. Our parent communication was an area of growth for us. So we wanted to ensure that we were solidifying that welcoming and outreach, but also building upon our parent-teacher communication and ensuring that our parents felt like they were a part of a classroom, because they're a vital part of their child's education. Teachers can't do it alone. We need the parent's voice in the room if we want to best reach our students. So before I move on and talk about some things that my team has done, that the school has done to help improve upon this, I'm going to invite our principal, Felicia Usher, just to say a few words.
Running a tweet. So hi, my name is Felicia Usher. I recognize a lot of people from last year, some new people, so it's great to see so many people in the room. The idea that I got for doing all the work that we did last year came from you. So last year, about the middle of the year, I came to a TPAC meeting, and I listened to all of the information that you shared about what you wish you knew or you wish you had information about from your schools. And so this meeting is very, very important. You just impacted 590 kids, at least. And so listening to not only this group, but also listening to what I heard from one or two parents going through the year, really I wish I knew more about what was going on in school. We then took that idea and ran with it and created all of these activities to follow up. We also were able to edit our family engagement and I can never get the name straight. The compact that we were talking about earlier. We updated it with the information that we pulled from our parents. We also took our family engagement survey results, and we looked at where we were really strong as well as where we had room for growth. And we created 5 survey questions for teachers, parents, and students in the 3rd grade and up. And we took all of that data and added it to our school improvement plan, and then we'll give that survey again at the middle of the year and at the end of the year, because we know we're not going to have the family engagement survey until it's a survey that comes out every 2 years. We wanted to try to track some of our areas for growth in the meantime between the 2 years. And so this is the way that we're addressing it. And Ms. Hill will talk about some things with that.
Sure. So the first thing we did was the popsicles in the park. Before school even started, all the teachers got on a big school bus, and we had 2 really large apartment complexes in our area. So we went to 3 or 4 different playgrounds. 4 different playgrounds. And we met our students before they came in our classroom. It was on even playing field. It wasn't in the classroom. It wasn't at their house. It was at a park. And we gave them popsicles, and we just talked to them. We talked to their families. We involved the community. And we also ended at Wayne Oaks Park. So if they didn't live in either complex, they had access to where we were. And we just thought it was a really awesome way to connect with families before they even stepped inside of our classroom. They had a familiar face before they came to school that day if they had never been to Wayne Oaks before. So that's one way that we kind of continued that welcoming atmosphere, that outreach. I think this has been most successful for myself and my team this year, and I know it's prevalent in other schools as well. It's called Remind. It's a Fairfax County approved parent communication app, and you just download it to your phone. And they go out like tweets almost. I can have private conversations with parents, or I can send messages out to the class as a whole. So I just provided a few examples. So for example, we're learning about food change in science. We're trying to change the language from what eats what to what gives energy to what. So I sent out a quick reminder saying, hey, this is the language we're using in our classroom. If you can reinforce that at home, that'd be great. I can send pictures, I can send short videos, I can send documents to them. Another one is I sent an example of an anchor chart that we're using in reading. So when their child's reading at night, they can ask them, hey, what's an inference you make tonight? I can send individual pictures to parents as well. So field day, I tried to snap as many pictures as I could, send them to individual parents. So if they weren't able to be there that day, they still felt like they were a part of the classroom.
So is it similar to Class Dojo?
I'm sorry?
Is it similar to Class Dojo?
I believe
Yes,
it's similar
it
to
is,
Class
yeah.
Dojo, but this is not a like for positive negative reward system. It's just a parent communication app.
What's the, is it have its own login system, or or does it use the SIS parent?
No, it has its own. So you directly download it to your app, and then your teacher will provide you with like a code or an email address that connects you directly to the app.
Text to a certain code and then you're in.
Right, right. And it directly connects, so it's almost like you can message through an app. So if you have a question, I know Miss Ahmad, her child is in my class this year, so we directly converse back and forth, and it's just an easy, quick way to get in touch with parents, and also, you know, give them a window into what's happening in the classroom.
Michelle, can I just jump in for a second?
Please.
As a parent, I will say that has made a huge difference, because most of us, when we ask our kids, what did you guys do at school today? We get the, I don't know.
Same
thing. So now,
Recess.
when Miss Hale, you know, we hear the ding, and even my son knows, like, oh, Miss Hale just sent something on the Remind app, and I'll ask him a question, so I can like preface it like with the inference or whatever they're talking about that day. And I like knowing she kind of sends things, you know, like that they are going to be doing also, so I can kind of, you know, talk about those things, or, you know, have a discussion about those things before, so you can have a better understanding of it. It's a really great way to communicate, and, you know, I just love seeing, you know, how they're engaging in the classroom, and just knowing like what they're working on is just really helpful, you know, so.
Well, I gotta ask this question. I was late. I underestimated it with the broken ankle, but I'm still engaged and involved in at least my kids' school, and I have 2 boys, both of their schools. But I was wondering, when we actually start asking questions and kind of understanding, and it sounds like with you saying that, I was like, have you all ever discussed, like, why aren't there syllabuses or direction guides about what the kids are doing? I've, like, in the classrooms, do other people get this? Is this something that's just particular to the schools I've interacted with in Fairfax County? I've asked the question. Let's see, I have a 5th grader and I have a 1st grader. And I've asked the question, I've gotten confusion or surprise from teachers, a little pushback, and then I get something from like the state, it's kind of high level. And I was just wondering, is that
The same replicated. I mean, I had the same experience,
so, like,
but we're different schools.
Is
like,
that a Fairfax County thing? Is that how schools are done? Like,
So I would say that elementary school, I've never seen a syllabus go home. I think more about high schools. I don't know if they do it in middle.
Middle
They
school
do it in middle
also. All middle
schools.
schools send the syllabus and the parent actually has to return it. It is a homework assignment, so it's 20% off the grade if the student doesn't return it, or it's also marked as incomplete.
What you probably are getting, I wouldn't be surprised if you've received the portrait of a graduate. No. What do we call it?
The framework.
The
Framework.
framework. There's something that's made for parents, and it talks about what students learn in 3rd grade
Yeah.
for the entire year. So that's what we have as a district to get out to the elementary school, but I've not yet seen a syllabus
Okay, because I mean,
So,
like, he was talking about being involved in his son's math, and I wanted to be involved in not only math, but the other classes, because I'm as accountable as my kid is for his education. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to keep on top of this when I don't know where you're going? So this is cool, but this is after the fact. And so I think about weekends, I think about days that they don't have school, teacher holidays, national holidays, and I'm like, I end up being very fascinated by, why don't we have visibility to what these kids are literally learning? Is it a union thing? Like, is there like, you all don't do all the same stuff?
No,
Like
so
what?
we differentiate differently for our
It
students.
seems to be classroom specific,
Yeah,
that's what I've learned over time.
We try to remain as aligned as we can within the building, but the truth is, I have 20 students who are completely different from the other 20 students in the class, so we try and serve them in the best way.
But like, you don't have to say it like, week 22, we're doing X, Y, and Z. But being like, okay, well, what are you studying now? Like, where are you going next? What's the evolution? How do these things intersect? And it makes it really difficult to maintain engagement when you're really trying to figure out. And if they're all Title I schools in Fairfax County, except for middle school, are elementary.
So it's not just Title I schools.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to cut in, it's a great conversation, but we gotta get out of this building in like 35 minutes, so we end the presentation, shuts off. Presentation actually shuts off at 8:30, and so everyone votes.
I was gonna get your information after. So, okay, sorry about that.
Last slide is that we've also been trying to do some newsletters to help bridge those gaps. So I sent home like a subtraction. Yeah. Strategies are different now, how to do math, so I try and send home a subtraction one. There's always a tech tip, so that's a video of me actually utilizing the strategy, so parents can see what strategy your child might be using in the classroom. I try and one for reading, so when we're doing a nonfiction unit, because that's kind of different in third grade, they're going from learning how to read to reading how to learn, so that we're cohesive within the school and in the classroom.
Is that email or physical?
This is physical, I have a Twitter page, and I will send it through Remind. So I try and hit every avenue. My time is up. We are going to skip these next two parts, and I am going to pass off to Renee.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're gonna just go through the rest of the meetings for the rest of the year. Meeting schedule next week is December 3rd. We talk about AP and the role of the AART. January 21st, we're gonna have it's gonna be really two-part. The first one in January is gonna be a screening of the film Resilience. And February 18th is gonna dig a little deeper and have more discussion, talk about trauma-informed practices. March 31st, talk about the revised students' rights and responsibilities and parent advocacy along those lines. And then May 12th, we're gonna finalize the school board annual report. We have two matters that we have to vote on. One is the proposed meeting schedule for 2021. That's because meeting space is hard to get, and the earlier we can lock it down, so we simply need a show of hands, those in favor of this proposed meeting schedule, and then we can get it locked down. So everyone, show of hands in favor. All opposed? Thank you. Let's see. And we have executive board members to elect. And as you saw, I think the executive board is more than just me. They all came in right after we started. They will put this, that's how much fun we have.
Ask them to stand up.
Oh, yeah. Name Christina Robinson.
Yeah.
Nina McConnell. Cara Donner. Actually, it's nominee, I'm sorry. We'll get back to you. Moses Cobb. I think that's it, right?
You,
Yeah.
Heather.
She came in, she was in her time. Then Ado's one of our executive board members, he is virtually participating. We have two vacancies right now. We have one nominee, Roberto Ho Moraes is one, and we have another vacancy for anybody interested. I can say it's rewarding, fulfilling, and Title I makes us look good. They just do everything so I can get up here and talk. It's just not hard for me to do. But we really get to dig into some issues. So if anybody's interested, even if you're not now, you can ask me questions offline and I can address those. Other than that, we have Ho is up for the vote. So, by show of hands, all in favor of adding him to the executive board?
We're like, yeah.
It's unanimous.
Except my wife, she's about to find the one opposed. That brings us right where we need to be. We have 3 minutes. Is there anything else? Anna, did you want to talk about the strategy that you did at your school?
Well, I don't want to take too much of your time. It would have gone with sort of this idea of welcoming an environment. So really quickly, I'm very excited to be here. So this is a new position in SCPS. Up until about 2 months ago, I was a principal as well in Reston. And so this new position, Director of Equity and Family Engagement, I support 3 teams. So I support Title I. I support our culture responsive team that does professional development for schools, and I support family engagement. So all those things definitely do connect. Thinking about how do we make sure all students feel, all families, students, and staff feel respected and welcome in our buildings. And so I've had the opportunity of working with Mike and the executive board a few times. We've had some great dialogue, and one of the questions that came out, and a nice part of my role is having that former principal lens being part of the executive board. We were talking about some of the decisions sometimes schools make, and how it's on, and I agree so much with what Felicia said. Sometimes we do it, we may not just say why we do it. And I do think we have more of an opportunity to start to explain. For example, when I was a principal, I made a very intentional decision to move back to school night before school started. And some people were really like, well, why would you do that? What's that about? It feels like you're putting up a barrier. Why are you doing that? And really, I had a really clear vision in my head why, but when I reflect back, I probably could have talked more about it. And so some of my reasons why I was sharing with Mike, when I talked to him, was like, oh, I wish I would know that was the reason why Prince and Mike wanted to do that. So a couple of my reasons why, the school I was a principal was also an advanced academic center, and I found that often the school felt very divided, and particularly back to school night. And you'd walk in the building, and it would sometimes even be disheartening because we haven't yet figured out how to crack the code to get everyone engaged and not just involved. Some rooms would be packed, and some rooms would have one person and a teacher standing there who had worked all day to create this PowerPoint, cute little suit on, and nobody to talk to. Aww. And it also then reinforced unintentionally some biases that certain families had around other types of families that weren't in the gifted program. So it was creating this environment where these types of families don't care, which maybe they were just busy, or that this type of family engaged. And I thought, well, this is not okay. This is not creating a caring culture. And what I noticed is everybody shows up for open house. Everybody wants to meet their teacher. So I made a conscious decision to try to combine those on the same day. That was the first year we tried it. If we put them on the same day, and they're already in the mood of like, I'm coming to school, and we even said daytimes for kids, nighttimes for you, and we tried to message that in a certain way, we saw an increase of like double the amount we could have gotten before in the classes that were not advanced academics. The other reason of moving the shift before, my principal friend can help me. Sometimes as a teacher, it feels like you're waiting for back to school night to get your year started. Like that's your kickoff of engagement. So the longer you wait in September, it's like you're waiting, and we just want to get the ball rolling. We want to engage with you from day one. We don't want to have to wait a month to say, let me tell you all about this class. You're a member of our classroom. So those are 2 big decision makers of why we moved to before school. But then really this past year, they did this, I kind of put this in on my way out, even still having them on the same day, there was still a discrepancy. And so now they combine events into one. Now some people have had great success with that, and some people haven't, but they said for the school I'm no longer the principal at, which is a Title I school, they said it was the best turnout they've ever had. That was, teachers left there feeling like, yes, I have people to partner with now, and parents were like, I'm glad I came to this. In the past, I couldn't come because I had my kid with me. So those were just some very intentional decisions that I made that I had never articulated just like this. They went on in my head because that's what principals do. You have to think strategically all the time. There's 50 million things going on. I probably should have slowed down and said, let me make sure I communicate my why. And so it's not a surprise to any principal in this room or any principal in the division when they look at some of the data. I would agree with Felicia wholeheartedly. Some are just not good. at telling our own story and making sure that we're sharing why a decision was made or all the great things happening in school. So that was just a little nugget I wanted to share with the group that Mike and I had a chat on. And my hunch is there are a lot of those kind of opportunities. So hopefully this year, as we engage together, we'll uncover more of those. Where are there opportunities we might just need to be a better narrator of our own journeys? Because often as not everybody knows to do that, they just do the work. And so we want to lift the veil. We don't want you to wonder. We care very much. And not many divisions do a family engagement survey. This is our inaugural one. And it was done so well in terms of the question making. We are now, the company that created it wants to pay us to say, can we like shepherd this out to other divisions who are looking to do this work? And so that's very typical of FCPS to be a trendsetter in that way. So I'm excited. You'll see me here at all the meetings, and hopefully we can talk more. Thank you.
Thank you. Please make sure that you filled your name in, because we're going to send everything to you, all the information, the presentation, and on November 14th, representatives from this committee and the Advisory Committee for Students with Disabilities will meet as a focus group from 9:45 to 11:15 for a focus group interview. They're seeking 2 to 3 people who would be available. It's November 14th. It's 9:45 to 11:15. That's a Thursday. So when you get this email, that information will be in, and you can reply to that. I also just wanted to add one part that Leon reminded me of. Part of our job is to rebrand Title I. For those who are outside and don't know, it's a negative connotation because they're judging the school based on the kids that go into it. Thinking too many brown and black children are going to a school, it's not high quality. We know that's not true. And part of our job is to be ambassadors for that and let them know all the good work that's happening inside. I think that's all that I had.
I think, does everybody know what the One Fairfax policy is? If you don't, fcps.edu/Fairfax, it's a policy that was created in 2017. Encourage everybody to read up on it because it's really important, especially as it relates to Title I and equity for our kids. And just with that, there is a school board election on November 5th, and One Fairfax is very much under attack. So you want to check in on that.
What was the website again?
fcps.edu/one, spelled out ONE, Fairfax.
All one word.
One Fairfax, yep.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming out. Look forward to seeing you.